So, what do you do? If you're an adult, you've surely been asked this question before. I was told by a dear friend in London that in England, as this question is rather rude, one is meant to answer, about what? So, what do you do? I find this question very odd. I've always wanted to answer, I read, I learn, I travel, I write, I make ceramics, all the while trying to raise children and a husband correctly without losing my mind. In French, the question's even stranger. It is, what do you do in life? Qu'est-ce que tu fais dans la vie? Meaning, what do you do for a living? I feel it's very reductive to be judged primarily on one's line of work, all the more so considering upward of 60% of people have been known to hate their job. Most of us work to make a living, of course, but all of us are more interesting than our job title suggests. Many fascinating women I know don't work or haven't always worked, and that doesn't mean they're not doing many things that are vital and important to society. I've even been asked how much I earn or if I own or rent my house. I'm a college graduate and had access to an excellent education, so yes, I'm clearly speaking from a position of privilege. I'm fully aware of that. I feel that across both international and socioeconomic lines, again and again, people always want to place others on some sort of success grid. Career, check. Wealth, check. Ranking on the social pecking order, check. Would it not be more interesting to ask a stranger what they like to read, listen to, or enjoy doing in their free time? In these times of continued lockdown and confinement all over the world, each and every one of us has been faced with solitude, existential questions, and a rarity, more time on our hands than we often know what to do with. I find myself thinking back to my studies of the humanities and how more relevant they are today than ever since I turned in my last paper some 20 years ago. Our world united in tragedy and became a small world for all for a fleeting moment. This opened up the opportunity for great minds to flex for the good of humanity. The humanities are academic disciplines that study aspects of human society and culture, and for all those students wondering what studies to choose, I would urge you to consider them. They use methods that are primarily critical or speculative and have a significant historical element rather than the mainly empirical approaches of the natural sciences. The humanities include the study of language and literature, philosophy and history, archaeology and anthropology, human geography, law, politics, religion, and art. Humanistic knowledge continues to provide the ideal foundation for exploring and understanding the human experience, past, present, and future. There are so many interconnections between these topics. Philosophy might help you answer ethical questions. Reading a book might help build empathy. Knowing about the past will help you understand the present and future better. Looking at a painting or sculpture may teach you something about other centuries and bring out certain emotions and feelings of awe and wonder. Learning a new language is often paired with cultural knowledge about a country or region. The arts matter so much because they're able to touch people on an intellectual and an emotional level. It might be a book that stays with you forever, a performance that moves you spiritually, or a piece of music that makes you look at the world around you in a different way. The purpose of art is to cause a reaction, and with this purpose, possibly create change. A change in attitudes, perceptions, and thoughts. Art reflects what's happening in a society. I read just last week that in the UK, the government wants to impose a catastrophic 50% funding cut to art subjects at higher education level. I'm afraid that this is happening all over the world. It's absolutely tragic. Not socializing as much in the past year has enabled me to have more time to reflect on the world and cultivate my intellect. I read once that the only prisoners who don't go insane in solitary confinement are the ones who read and who have the intellectual capacity to be critical thinkers. As a student, I worked really hard to get into top schools, where I learned among similarly curious minds. Many of my friends who had steep college loans turned to finance because as a young college graduate, the banks and hedge funds were paying the highest salaries. A history professor of mine once told me that some of the brightest minds he knew were sadly wasting their time on Wall Street instead of making an impact elsewhere. I think the 2008 global financial crisis somewhat changed that. When I see so many young people fascinated by selfies, brands, money, and fame, I am completely desperate. This past year has certainly demonstrated that the gap between the haves and the have-nots is getting larger, and that it's essential to take a step back from our everyday life and think about what really matters. There has been a paradigm shift. We've been forced to turn ourselves more inwards and re-examine the context we live in. The question, what do you do, puts me very ill at ease because it makes me want to respond, I care. I try to be a better person. I learn something new every day. I question myself and my convictions. The simple answer would be, I'm an antique dealer, or I'm an anthropologist. When I was a student, I felt there was more value placed in the study of science and engineering rather than the humanities. They were somehow considered more important, or perhaps more serious subjects. But where would we be today without history, art, philosophy, or literature? I would say that besides the precious academics, in a small liberal arts college, I learned that with privilege comes responsibility to help those in need, that success is not measured in a quantitative manner, that if you want to get to know someone, asking what they do for a living is not the best question, far from it. Success to me is measured in personal satisfaction, the ability to quench one's intellectual thirst, having a well-balanced life, a healthy family. This is relevant more than ever in this global pandemic we're facing. I have 3 teenage children who are beginning the long, competitive, stressful college admissions process. And what do I really wish for them in life? To be happy, to have an impact in the community they're living in, to stand up for social justice, always, to stay forever curious and open-minded, to be able to adapt anywhere, to gain knowledge, insight, skills, and experience, to become leaders for the common good. I was taught that in college. To have challenging, inspiring, and enlightening conversations with people of all walks of life. And last but not least, to find their place in the world and be the person they want to be. May their answer to what you do be something more than a job title at a Fortune 500 company. I will never, ever forget my first day in college. It was very inspiring and equally intimidating. All the freshmen were to meet in the outdoor amphitheater. We were welcomed by the Dean of Students and then asked several questions and to stand up whenever our answer was yes. No one thinks they know more than a pretentious young adult who just got into college. That was about to change. It started easy. Were you in the top 10% of your high school class? Top 5%? Top 2%? Were you class valedictorian, a varsity athlete? Do you speak 3 languages or more? I felt like literally everyone around me was rising to their feet after every question. The new reality was that 50% of our class would soon be in the bottom half. And then after a few more questions, we were asked to say in unison 3 times, "No matter what you say or do to me, I'm still a worthwhile person." It was a revelation, an epiphany. It taught me humility, solidarity. Being part of this community where people with good ideas come together to make great ones changed my life. Lifelong learning and personal development are what keep us going. Continuing to challenge ourselves and our perspectives is fundamental. Studying the humanities makes us all better stewards for the common good.